Good morning. I'm Lisa Miller, and I'm a volunteer with the Maine Families Network, which is an organization that encourages vibrant and resilient families in communities. And we're holding this conversation today because we believe that parents have a huge role to play in their children's education. And we think parents are rather natural educators. There's nothing structured or credentialed about it. There are opportunities for parents day in and day out to begin their children's education. It's within all of our families to give our children the critical skills, values, and ethics that we want them to carry on through life. We're holding this discussion today with some everyday people to explore their parenting styles and see what we can learn from them. I have with me today, on my left, Chris Albee, who is a married father of 11 children, 2 of whom are adopted. The age range is from infancy to 22 years old. And he works in auto sales, is a former boxer, and also teaches the sport. And to his left is Rachel Brewster, who is a very busy, somewhat tired single mom of 3, ages 6, 3, and 18 months. She works here at UMA. She's a full-time student here at UMA and is aiming to be credentialed both in early education and as a CPA. Is that correct? Is there anything else you're going to try and do? My goodness, it's
well, there's a minor in photography and a minor in small business management as well.
Whoa. And on my right, we have Mark Stebbins, who is a married father of 3 children, aged 17, 14, and 12. And he's a vice president at Kennebec Savings Bank in commercial banking. And is very active in the community with Babe Ruth and Sports Boosters, Chamber of Commerce, probably more than we care to enumerate. And they're all joining us today. Thank you very much to have a conversation about how we approach life as parents. And the first question I'd like to ask, and whomever wants to jump in, feel free, but we're all in families ourselves, and our parents had certain kinds of parenting styles, some of which maybe we liked and some maybe we didn't. And I'm wondering how your parents' style of parenting has informed the way you parent now. Would anyone like to jump in on that one?
Well, I could start just because my father worked for the Food and Drug Administration. He was on the road a lot doing inspections. And my mother was very civic oriented. She was on town council. She was on school committee. So a lot of, for me, I had to learn how to do a lot of things on my own at an early age, which thank goodness the school systems then had industrial arts and home economics, because I did learn how to cook. My mother did teach me how to cook, but they were gone a lot, so I did have to learn how to do things on my own and also help take care of my brother and my sister. So,
wow.
So, you know, some people might think that's terrible, but in my mind, it helped me build a lot of independence. So I thought that was actually a pretty
and some skill building. It sounds
skill
like.
building, absolutely.
Yeah.
I actually come from the exact opposite end of the spectrum. My parents were around all the time, and they were very much I'm the oldest of 4 girls, and we really didn't do anything for ourselves. My parents pretty much took care of everything. So by the time I graduated high school, I had no idea how to manage finances. I had no idea how to cook. I had no idea how to do anything, basically. So adulting was a very, very interesting experience, learning how to be an adult.
Jumping off a cliff.
Yep, pretty much.
Yep. Wow. And Chris, how do you manage so many people in a household like that? What does your day look like?
Well, in all candidness, I married Wonder Woman.
That's a good parenting skill.
My wife and I just love being parents, but she homeschools all of our children, has homeschooled them throughout. The managing of our day, though I sell cars and trucks and I'm away many, many hours most days, it is a reality that our children contribute to so much of our day-to-day lives concerning, and I heard Mark talk about traveling back and forth to sporting events and things. A couple of my older children who drive help with that. I really see with all of our children the contribution of a team approach. They're really, it wouldn't be a possibility if we weren't a team.
Right.
And I experienced, as a youngster, my mom was a single parent, absolutely wonderful lady, self-proclaimed human rights activist,
Wow.
and just a wonderful lady whom, to my sister and my brother and I, just spent as many hours as she could with us when she wasn't out of the home working. So she encouraged us to be independent, was there as much as she could be, but it was certainly an influence
Yes.
on what parenting styles I have now. I'm learning day to day.
We're always learning. That's true. So, so Rachel, it sounds like we all juggle work, family, community, school.
Yep.
How do you maximize the time with your children when you don't have much time?
It's a challenge. Some days are better than others, to be honest, but I get a lot of support from my mom. She helps me watch the kids a lot, so she's usually the one that watches the kids when I'm working, and I try very hard to make sure that the time that I'm with my children, that I'm with my children, that I'm trying not to be preoccupied with other things, and if I do have something else to do, I try to get them involved in it. So if I'm doing homework, I get out coloring books and crayons and pencils, and they sit down and they do their homework. And if I'm doing dishes, then I put all of the plastic dishes in a bucket on the floor and they wash the dishes. If we're cooking, they cook with me. I just try to, because I mean, realistically, being a single parent, there's a lot of things that I have to take care of, and sometimes that does cut into the time that I'm with my children. So I just try to get them involved in that. Plus, coming from a family where I did not know how to do anything for myself once I became an adult, I feel very strongly about creating an environment where my kids are going to learn how to do things for themselves. I always say I'm not raising children, I'm raising adults. Like, that's my ultimate goal, is to produce, not produce, but like to raise people that are going to be functioning adults, that are going to be able to contribute to society and be able to take care of themselves. And hopefully when and if they become parents, that they're going to be able to raise children that are going to be adults as well. So that for me is just trying to involve them in every aspect of anything that I'm doing.
And be present in
Yep,
their lives.
and be as present as it is humanly possible to be.
So another question I have, and maybe perhaps Mark, you can step in on this, or anyone else. You touched on it a little. How have you used play as a teaching tool? I mean, you're involved in sports a lot.
Yeah, I mean, play. I'll tell you a story. My middle son was having some issues, and we were, you're concerned. I was worried my son was going to show up to school the first day and then get sent home. And we call occupational therapy, which is basically learning to deal with your aggressions or whatever issues you have through play. And I'm sitting there thinking, this is kind of a waste of time, but it really worked. And there's a stigma associated with having to send your kid to a psychologist or something. But I will say that really worked. And if you're ever worried about that, the most important thing is to get what your kids need.
Yes.
And that showed me that, to me it looked like simple play, but to him it really worked and helped them. So, and I'm not sure if it was the play or the time or teaching them how to play and engage that play into preparing themselves. My son had a very difficult time being told to do something. He had to prepare himself and be ready to do it. If he was told to do something, it's very difficult for him to do it. So somehow they're able to, through occupational therapy, get that done. But to anyone who is worried about a stigma, do what you need to do to get your children prepared. And now my son is on the honor roll. He's won the principal's award in school for the top citizen in his class, and never had a problem. But play's important because the world is such a You know, we've got social media, we've got electronic devices, and I think play allows kids to be creative.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's an important part in their development.
And spontaneous.
And spontaneity and you know,
And you bring up a very important point that sometimes we just have to gulp and learn how to be advocates for our children,
Right.
even when it sometimes seems to go against the grain.
Right.
And it sounds like that's what you did, and it worked.
Yeah,
you know.
much so. More my wife. You know,
Yeah.
Again, I was really worried about the stigma of having to send my child to a
Right,
psychologist, but watching him go through that process and how much of a difference it made, and then I will say, don't hesitate. You know, because if you don't do what you need to do, I think that's where we can run into problems.
Yes. So, Chris, how does play work out in your family? Is it an important part of your children's lives?
It definitely has been. What just came to mind was 3 of our children who are 3, 5, and 8 years old. I was watching over the last few days. My 5-year-old boy my 3-year-old boy will regularly occupy himself with various toys, whether it's Legos or action figures. And as I did as a youngster, I can hear him speaking the voices of these little figures interacting. And it's just encouraging to hear and see him occupying himself, but using his imagination at the same time. And the same thing with my 5-year-old and 8-year-old daughter, hearing them talk with one another. And if I'm not really paying attention to the conversation, I'm not really certain at times whether it's an actual conversation or they're playing, and then I observe that they're just simply living out this imagination and living out this natural happening, this natural play. It's great. It's just natural development that happens when they're interacting with one another, and so that's in reference to play.
Imagination is an important thing to foster and cultivate.
I agree.
Yeah.